first gathering, we'd like to begin this time and every time by acknowledging that the land threatened by the pipelines has been stolen once before from the indigenous peoples of those areas, that it's indigenous land that we stand on here today, and that it's indigenous peoples who started and lead the pipelines resistance movements. And as y'all know, today our focus is the state of Virginia's authority to stop the Atlantic Coast and Mountain Valley pipelines. Governor Northam, in an attempt to skirt the fact that he has willfully ignored the disastrous impacts and environmental racism of these projects, has maintained that, in the end, FERC will have the final say. That is simply not true. If it were, then why would the Virginia State Control Board even bother voting on certifications for it? The truth is, under Section 401 of the Clean Water Act, state regulatory bodies have the right to deny construction projects in their state. That's why the Water Board had the final say in the pipeline's water quality permits, and that's why they can still revoke these permits and stop the pipelines. We call for Governor Northam to publicly acknowledge the harm of these pipelines and to urge the State Water Control Board, as we do, to revoke the pipeline's permits based on the clear evidence that the projects cannot move forward without irreparable harm to the drinking water of Virginia's communities. And so I'll open it up for anybody else that wants to say anything at this time. Do y'all want to say anything?
Governor Northam, this is Marilyn Carpy, your worst nightmare. A nasty grandma from Northern Virginia. So here's your to-do list, Ralph. Set up a golf date with David P. Send thank you cards for Dominion's donation. Ignore affected pipeline communities. Continue denying that you have the power to stop the pipelines. Got it? Now do it. Governor Northam, do your job.
I'll speak. I'm holding this sign on purpose today because David Paler, who was reappointed to DEQ by Dr. Mudd, is incapable of advocating for the citizens of Virginia and for the waters of Virginia. He is so enmeshed and sees his job as doing the duty of Dominion and EQT that he is simply incapable of performing in his job. He needs to be fired, and we need to have a director of environmental quality who puts Virginia first.
Hear, hear.
Yes. Hop into Chance.
I'm going to read the letter now. Did anybody else want to speak? So, our new thing is to read the letter with the megaphone, so they definitely hear it. Although the governor was on the radio this morning and avoiding pipeline questions.
Did he take any?
I didn't get to see the live stream, but I saw that we write you today regarding your maintained lie that the state of Virginia does not have the power to stop the Atlantic Coast and Mountain Valley pipelines. Section 401 of the Clean Water Act states, any applicant for a federal license or permit to conduct any activity including, but not limited to, the construction or operation of facilities which may result in any discharge into the navigable waters shall provide the licensing or permitting agency a certification from the state in which the discharge originates or will originate, or, if appropriate, from the Interstate Water Pollution Control Agency having jurisdiction over the navigable waters at the point where the discharge originates or will originate. No license or permit shall be granted if certification has been denied by the state, interstate agency, or the administrator, as the case may be. In other words, if Virginia's regulatory entities revoke the permits for the pipelines, they cannot be constructed in this state. It's that simple. Governor Northam, you have stated that you want the process involving the pipelines to follow the law. It is in the law that the state of Virginia has authority to stop these pipelines. It is also clear that the Department of Environmental Quality has abandoned its legally dictated responsibilities to protect Virginia's water. The agency approved incomplete, inadequate inadequate erosion and sediment control and stormwater management plans for both pipelines, and has barely reacted to the egregious water quality violations accruing for the Mountain Valley Pipeline. The DEQ has also intentionally been slow to provide information regarding these violations and comments on the insufficiency of the Army Corps of Engineers Nationwide 12 permit to the State Water Control Board, which is the body that actually does have the final say in the permitting of these pipelines. If you truly care about Virginia's water, environment, communities, or even the law itself, you must act now. Publicly acknowledge that these projects will be a disaster for Virginia and call for the State Water Control Board to revoke the 401 certification permits for the Atlantic Coast and Mountain Valley pipelines. Okay, and so we can sign that in due chance. All right.
Demand
We, the people of Virginia, demand
that Governor Ralph Northam
that Governor Ralph Northam
acknowledge Virginia's authority under Section 401 of the Clean Water Act.
acknowledge Virginia's authority
Under Section 401 of the Clean Water Act, and that he call for the State Water Control Board to revoke the pipeline's 401 certification, and that he call for the State Water Control Board to revoke the pipeline's 401 certification. Governor Northam, you said,
Governor Northam, you said
we all have a moral compass
we all have a moral compass
deep in our hearts.
deep in our hearts.
Let us rely on that compass we all carry
Let us rely on the compass we all carry
to show us the way ahead.
to show us the way ahead.
When we make decisions, we'll apply this test.
When we make decisions, we'll apply this test.
Is there a better way forward
Is there a better way forward
that we haven't considered yet?
that we haven't considered yet?
Science first, Dominion's the worst. 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 Science first, Dominion's the worst.
All right, can I get mean? Northam's a liar. It's time that he was fired. Or Paler's a liar. It's time that he was fired.
I'd rather fire him.
Okay.
Can't really.
Time that he was fired. Paler's a liar. It's time that he was fired.
Corporate greed, we must fight.
Corporate greed, we must fight.
Corporate greed.
We must fight. Corporate greed, 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 we must fight. Polluting Earth is not a right. Polluting Earth is not a right. Polluting Earth is not a right. Polluting Earth is not a right.
Polluting Earth is not a right.
We put them all together. Corporate greed, we must fight. Polluting Earth is not a right.
Corporate greed is we must fight. Polluting Earth is not a right. Corporate greed, we must fight. Polluting Earth is not a right. Corporate greed, we must fight. Polluting Earth is not a right.
Are you doing to revoke the pipeline.